Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts, and we talked about staying in that division with the Jags. Here we go. Division game between Titans and Colts. 2.5 in favor of the Titans. 43.5 is our total in this one. So, Steven, I'm going to start with you. I've got no team more wrong in the history of this podcast that we've been doing this than the Tennessee Titans.
Ditto.
I still don't think they're good. They go to prove me wrong on occasion, and then they fit right into the part. In other occasions, I don't exactly know what to do here. I do know what I have in the Colts, which is a very, very athletic quarterback who is still kind of struggling with accuracy, but I think is going to continue to get better over the course of the season, is probably going to be a guy that I want to back later on in the year when some of those accuracy things get cleared up just a little bit more. He understands the playbook a little bit better, gets what NFL defenses are doing a little bit better, but this all seems kind of appropriate. It's probably a field goal in favor of the Titans. It's probably, you're getting a little bit of a discount here because the Colts are at home. I'm going to take a pass on this one, but I certainly am going to continue to watch the progression of Anthony Richardson in all of this, because once they had to kind of YOLO it last game and he was throwing the ball downfield, you started to see all that stuff the scouts talk about. Like, you saw like the wow factor with this arm and like the stuff he's able to do with all that. Now the ball was wildly inaccurate. Like, the ball wasn't going where he wanted it to go, but like you started to see, you're like, oh, that's that arm everyone was falling in love with. Like, oh my God, that's that rocket that was just like wowing people at combines and workouts and things like that. But for me, I'll sit back and watch this, but this division is getting fairly interesting with the Jags not being as good as we thought, the Titans still kind of hanging around, and then you got the Colts and the Texans still kind of hanging around.
I agree. I actually think there's an outcome where you might even get two teams from this division into the playoffs with some of the injuries and other issues we've seen in the AFC, which would be shocking compared to what we thought coming into this season. And even more shocking, the Jags might not be one of the two. I mean, that's in the range of outcomes too. So I just think this is a bad matchup on paper for the Colts. Their metrics tell you that they don't have a great passing offense right now, despite some of the improvisational and comeback stuff from Anthony Richardson last week. And if their bread and butter is running the ball, well, they're facing one of, if not the toughest rush defenses in the league. Tennessee is top 10 in rush D, top 3 by EPA stopping the run. And what also was kind of surprising to me is, the Colts have the reputation of running the ball. They might get Jonathan Taylor back as well this week, but at least in terms of the advanced statistics, they're 31st by EPA and 23rd in success rate, I believe. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, guys, but hasn't been great. Flip over to the other side here, and I think the line move here, this actually flipped from the look ahead where the Colts are a small favorite, now Titans a small favorite. I think the move is appropriate just based on availability on both sides. The Titans are getting two offensive linemen back, Peter Skoronski, who was fantastic in his NFL debut, and Petit Friere from the nonsensical gambling on non-NFL game suspension. He's back from that. So the bad Tennessee offensive line got better this week. And the Colts have two key players out on defense in Shaq Leonard and Kwity Paye. Those are probably two of their three most important defenders, quite frankly. The other being DeForest Buckner. So I think the line is appropriate here. No play for me, but I'm very fascinated to see how this division plays out.
Adam, likely to get Jonathan Taylor back out there for the Colts. Don't know if that's going to make a difference in your handicap with all of this, but worth mentioning, he was out there, full practices. Gave, I guess the politically correct answers to the questions of, hey, I'm out here for now. And if I'm out here, I'm going to play. So it seems like we're going to get him. Don't know if he'll be on a snap count or what that's going to be. I don't know if that materially changes anything for you from a handicapping perspective, but for me, we all three of us have been cashing in on these Anthony Richardson rushing props since he's been out there, but that has me off of it this week because I want to see just how involved they're going to get Jonathan Taylor, and if he steals those goal line touches now, because that was the thing we were banking on is Anthony Richardson was the goal line back. We were cashing that every single week, but we can't, I don't know if we can confidently do it this week considering, Taylor back in there.
All right, I guess I'll be the one person in on this game, although I guess we'll say I'm, 3/4 in, maybe, because I have a teaser on this on Indianapolis. It's my first leg there at +8.5. First of all, plus 8.5 on a home dog at a 43-point game. If you just want to stop right there, you can just stop right there. If you want to keep talking about it a little bit, this is the point in the season at which I think you have to give the most serious consideration to what you came into the season thinking about the team versus what you're seeing about the team right now and why you're seeing what you're seeing about the team right now. So if you go by the old DVOA metrics and the old Football Outsiders metrics here, there are a handful of teams where you can look and see big differences between their metric of DVOA and their metric of Dave. And the Dave metric essentially combines DVOA with what the preseason expectations were for the team. And Indianapolis has a pretty wide gap here. They're 19th in total DVOA. They were 28th in Dave. That's their combination metric coming into the season. So basically what it's telling you is this is a team that has outperformed what people thought they were going to do. And when you start looking down the line and you say, which are the teams that have had these huge gaps and why have they had these huge gaps? It's either new head coaches or new offensive coordinators or new quarterbacks or bad quarterback situations, one direction or the other. And I think we can say Richardson has at least been better than we expected. We might not have had much expectation for him. And then you add in Shane Steichen and you have a play caller who is optimizing what he does with Anthony Richardson. And so when I look at this Tennessee team and see that they are going to be without Treylon Burks and that they're going on the road in division, I have a hard time thinking they're getting this game outside of 8.5. And then I look at Indianapolis and I see a team that, yes, if you go ahead and take the garbage time out, EPA on offense, they're 30th. But then you look at defense, they're 7th. Really? Like, that's not something I expected to see out of the Indianapolis Colts this year. So overall, I just see enough positives in the Indianapolis category that I'm willing to go and take 8.5 in pocket on half of a tease here with a team that I think has outperformed a little bit and probably is going to continue to outperform at least what the preseason expectations were. Because again, we're talking about new play caller and new quarterback. So there was a lot of uncertainty there.
Yeah, and so to kind of keep with the whole divisional talk here, because the next game we're going to get to is going to be the Texans and the Falcons. Look, you have the Jags who are 5.5, 6-point dogs. You have two teams that are playing each other, so somebody's going to get a win, somebody's going to get a loss, and then you have the Texans that are coming in and playing the Falcons. If you don't like the Jags, I think now would be the time that if you did like one of these other three teams to go ahead and get one of those other three teams in your account, right? Because again, one of the two teams between the Titans and Colts is going to win this week. The Texans are only 1.5 dogs in this thing against the Falcons. So if you like any of these other teams, I think now is the time that you need to go ahead and get it in the account and go up against the Jags, who are, again, if we go by what the spread is and all, they're like likely to lose this week. And so here's your buy point, because it's not going to be worth it after this week in which the two teams play each other. And then if Houston does get this win against the Falcons.
And Matt, just to add to that point, if you look at remaining strength of schedule by PFF for the rest of this season, Jacksonville's remaining schedule is the 15th hardest in the league. Indianapolis, 28th. Tennessee, 29th. Houston, 30th.